If you want to write a book and become a best-selling author, you're in the right place. At Elite Online Publishing, we can help you create, publish, and market your book so that it becomes a #1 bestseller. We work with a limited number of authors to ensure that they receive the best possible service. So if you want to learn how to write and publish a book that will empower you to smartly grow your brand, business, and credibility, apply today. We look forward to working with you.
We're really excited for you to be here. We have Keith Leon S. with us, and he is a 9-time award-winning and 11-time international best-selling author. He has a successful book publishing company, as well as he is a filmmaker. He has been on the Jenny McCarthy Show, and I do want to find out more about how he's been on that show, as well as, of course, ABC, CBS, and NBC, and successful magazines. But he has a compelling story we're going to dive in today about growing up with no father and a manic depressive mother, and he barely graduated high school, and how he got out of that and into a life where he's a filmmaker, rubbing shoulders with the top dogs from The Secret, as well as comedians JP Sears and others. So welcome, Keith.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, well, tell us a little bit about how you got into coming from that background, how you got into deciding I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I'm going to do this stuff on my own and write books and be a book publisher.
Well, let's see. Ever since
Long journey,
I
right?
was young, I had a plan. 20s, 30s, rock star. 40s, book author and speaker. 50s, filmmaker. That was the plan, and I was sticking to it. Challenge was, like I said, I barely graduated high school, and though I wanted to go to USC and be a business major and take film as my minor, there was no money for that. There was no scholarship for that for me. Well, so it just wasn't happening. So I just ended up being a restaurant worker, right? Cook, waiter, working my way up to bartender, and had great experience in the restaurant business. However, when I met my wife, we just celebrated 25 years. We both were restaurant workers, but we both had always had those aspirations to be authors. And so when we got together, we kind of shared things that didn't work in past relationships and came up with a plan of how we wanted to do our relationship, and more specifically, how we wanted to communicate with each other. So we created a tool that we now call the Format, and we use that tool to communicate. And so that's what we wrote. Our first book was called The 7 Steps to Successful Relationships. And because of that one tool, we actually got John Gray, who wrote Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, the #1 selling book of all time.
That's great.
Endorsed us on the front covers that Keith and Leon have created powerful relationship tools that work on the front cover. So you would think that would have the books would just be flying off the shelf, but it didn't even fall off the shelf because I didn't take the time to ask him, hey, what should I do next? Like, how do I use this book as a tool to get on stage? How do I use this book as a stepping stone to all that I wanted to do? And so I had probably sold 12 copies of that book by the time I did the second book, Who Do You Think You Are? Discover the Purpose of Your Life. And that was the one that had 10 people from the movie The Secret. Much everyone in that book, when you read their bio, you would say, that's who that is, or I knew who that is. And these are all people who I felt were truly living their purpose in life, and how they act, who they are is such a demonstration that I knew that if I asked them, like, who do you think you are? Meaning, what's your purpose in life? What series of events led to your discovery, and what tools could you share with others who are looking to discover their purpose? I did that book, and all of those people from The Secret who had a list of 100,000 plus took me under their wing, taught me everything they know, promoted the book. And then 2 weeks before that book came out, Oprah held up Eckhart Tolle's book about life purpose and made it to the world. So you're on course when everything lines up.
Yeah, when everyone's doing similar things. Yeah.
So I started speaking about that topic, but then I would share the story I just shared with you of reaching all those people and getting the yeses, and thing I call right asking and the whole thing. And so after I just gave this 90-minute talk on life purpose, people would come up and be like, oh, I loved your talk, but aren't you the book guy? Hey, aren't you that book guy? Aren't you the book guy? And so they call me the book guy. That literally, because they kept saying that, I was like, why do they keep saying that? And I was like, because that's the part they were hearing in my Earn the Right, in my intro. That's the story most compelling that stuck with them. And I realized, like, I'm like, why do they say the book guy? And I'm like, because I'm the only person that I know walking the planet who has all of the tips, all the tools, all of the information from the top authors, speakers, marketers in the world, right? And so that just changed everything. So if we're going to talk entrepreneurship, I always knew that I was going to have my own business. That when I was young, I really thought I was going to go to USC and all that. But I could see myself as an adult having business meetings with these famous people and thinking up things and doing them. And so this just really put me on the path of that.
Cool. Well, I really like how you had a vision in the beginning. You had your goals, you had your plan, right? Where I know some entrepreneurs just jump off the cliff, and they forget to be like, oh, wait, I needed a business plan, or, oh, wait, I needed to have a goal in mind before I started this business, right? And then they wonder why the business failed in 1 year or 2 years or whatever, or not even a year, right? Or they stop doing it, or whatever happens with the business. And it's because they don't have that vision or that goal. I also liked what you said about you saw yourself. You actually visually, not just a vision of a goal on paper, but visually saw yourself rubbing shoulders with these people, right?
Yeah.
So some of the law of attraction, or another podcast I did earlier where he said the gift of attraction.
Yes.
Being knowing this is what I want, and then it ends up happening, right? That comes true because you were rubbing, whether you knew the right people or you asked the right questions to get to know the right people so that you could do that book, right?
Yeah.
Which made it sense, which I also want to talk about that with the marketing is you actually did what I love is the success leaves clues, right? It's like you were like, oh, there's already know how to get bestsellers. And so we'll do what they're doing. And then you got your book out to more people, right? Because you had all of the efforts of everyone marketing instead of just you trying to market the one book, right? Even though you had the great forward and the great name on the cover with, the #1 relationship book, but it wasn't the marketing plan.
Right.
Or you didn't, so I like how you examples. They're both successful books in my opinion, because I think that the book only gets like 250 sales total or something like that. So both of them are probably great success.
If you sell more than 200 books, you're in the top 2% of all people that have ever written books, because people know how to write, but they don't know how to sell them. That's what I learned from John Grit.
Yeah. I love that.
So I love that you opened up a lot of cans. And so I'm going to do my best, I'm going to do my best to grab each piece. So the spoken word creates. The spoken word creates our reality. No matter what master teacher you believe in, every one of them in their own way said it happens as you believe. Pray, believing that you have and you'll receive. The words that you speak come true. Second piece, the mind doesn't know the difference between reality or you're doing a visioning, right? It just sees the picture and then goes, okay, because subconscious mind just says, okay. Even if we're saying negative things, watching the news, taking in negative information, it goes, okay. And then we wonder why we have a bad day and bad dreams and all of that, but that's a whole nother workshop. So with the positives, me visualizing, that's how I got like all the people to say yes to be in that book was I put up their books in front of me with their face looking at me, because the picture on the back of the book saying, call me. Oh, I'm going to say yes. I always support good things. And I would hear their voices literally talking me into being willing to pick up the phone and send that email. And so I was using visualization, creation, this power of the spoken word, and that I wrote an email that was what I call an elevator email. So it's like an elevator pitch, but in email form. You don't write anything below the part where they can read without scrolling down is like your name and the information about
Very
you.
small.
Everything else you want, your ask is right here. And I had downloaded
Mm-hmm.
a specific way to do that email even. So what really shifted everything was when my wife and I were business partners, and when we were doing things together, like when we wrote the 7 Steps book and the other seeming failure that happened after that. I love a good, strong, powerful woman. And so I was kind of deferring to her, even though I'm the one that had the business background. And she admittedly will for you, she's an overthinker. So it would take 2 hours to do a simple email. Every word had to be put in place. Every word had to be right. There was like a way that we did things that was the way she would do it. Cause I grew up with
Mm-hmm.
strong, powerful women in my life, my
Yeah.
grandmother, mother, everybody. I was just like, defer. Right. And so coming off of 2 seeming failures, she was like, will you take over the business? I truly, honestly feel like I put out your light. Like I have just extinguished it. And when we got together and told all the things that we shared at the beginning, that was one of the things that I promised I wouldn't do. But, and you said I would probably allow it. I will probably allow it because I love that, right? That type of woman. And you did. And so here we are. So she's like, will you take over? And I said, well, okay. All right. And then, so it was like, well, how will I do it? And how would I run a business different way we're running a business together?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a combination of what you said. So I did create my 6-month, 1 year, 5-year plan. I did go through the process of writing all that so that I could have my big dream and see the big result. But when it came back to
Mm-hmm.
right now, the next step, I would look at whatever I thought next step was, and then I would put it over here, and then I would just
Mm-hmm.
clear and then ask one question. So maybe it was, what is my next step for the book? And I would wait until I received the answer to that one question. So one of the questions was, how will I reach out to these people who, by the way, at this point, I had been told no multiple times by all the masters. And I was needy. I felt like I needed them to help me to make this great. Need them. And so,
which is probably why they were saying no.
around someone that's needy, you just want to get away from as far away from them as you can, even in a relationship. But this time I knew this project was going to be great, whether they said yes or not. And that was the difference. And then I said, how do I reach out to these people? And that's when I downloaded the elevator email, like all of that. But when I asked that question, how do I reach out to these people? I sat in the silence and waited 2 weeks, 2 solid weeks, doing nothing else, unless I had to, eat, do family stuff, or if not, I was right back in one question asking. And thank God I didn't give up at week 1, because after week 2 was when I downloaded the whole way to ask, and everything from the subject line to the signature just came through. Like, well, I'm possessed, and was, God, this is so incredible. What is this? And I did that. And that's how I got all the yeses. And that's what I teach all my students. And that's how I've got every yes ever since. When you make it so easy for them to say yes, they will. And if you are empowered and in your power and not needy, then you have an energy that they would actually want to say yes to.
Right. Well, can you go over those steps one more time? So, what are the steps, like basically getting a download or getting an answer that you go through?
Sit, ask, and listen. So a lot of people sitting, meditation, prayer, right? Whatever you like to call it. A lot of people asking questions. But here's what happens to most. And what happened to me before I did it this way was, I'm an entrepreneur. So shiny object syndrome. I would ask one question and then, shiny object, and go over there and forget that I asked the other question. And then I wondered why I wasn't getting any answers to my questions. So the one kind of thing that I decided I would do differently was to sit in the one question until I received the answer. And that changed everything about my business, everything about my life, everything about the type of people that I attracted into my life. All of those masters, yes. And on the other side of that book project, who do you think you are? I had the personal mentors that I had always wanted. And I mean, like call up on the phone, like on my board or advise and just ask for advice, mentor, not just, a coaching
Not
program.
just they're with you in the book, but they are your mentors. Yeah.
Yeah, mobile group coaching program, like they're in my phones. And then there was Bob Proctor, Jack Canfield, and John DiButtini. And then all the other people from The Secret were just like, anything you need, let me know. And boy, did each and every one of those people make good on that promise. And I'm
Mhm.
talking ever since. Like, if you look at all the compilation books, everything that I've done up until now, I always have 3 superstars from The Secret. And they just keep saying yes. They keep pouring into me because they believe in what I do. And they know that when we get on the phone, I'm not going to waste their time. It's like, here's what I'm doing. What am I missing? That's what a mentor call looks like with one of them, right? And it's what I presented. This is the way we'll do it. Here's what I'm doing. What am I missing? Because they're on the outside looking in. They can see it. They've already
Mhm.
done it. They know the answer. So unlike a coach, which will ask me 20 questions to try to get the answer out of me, a mentor, you say, here's what I'm doing. What am I missing? They tell you what to do and you do the thing. And then you don't contact them till you're
Right.
not.
You don't ask questions, you
Yeah.
just do it.
And then once you've done it, then you say, hey, I did it. What's the next step? Oh, cool. Let's get on the phone. So it's been just a beautiful experience. And I was thinking to myself when you were reading the bio that you read, I don't think about any of that. Like I forget 90% of everything that you read. And so I think that's one of the fun things that I get from doing these interviews is hearing that back, right? Because it reminds, oh yeah, I did do that. Oh, I remember being on Jenny McCarthy. Oh yeah, oh yeah. And I get to kind of have that moment right before you start asking me these questions. I get to have the fun of reliving all of those moments. So
Yeah. How did you get on the Jenny McCarthy show?
for the Angel book tour, I hired a publicist and a
Mhm.
booker. So I had a woman who booked all the venues that I spoke at and all the bookstores. But then I had a publicist named Dia Shandera. Dia Sandera. She used to run one of the major film companies in the world. And then when she retired from that, she decided to take a handful of people on per year and be a publicist for them. So she was getting me all these kind of radio shows and podcasts and all of that. And then she was like, so whose show do you like really want to be on? And it was like Jenny McCarthy. And she's like, okay, let me work on that. And then she got it. I got to be on her podcast show. And that was fun. Cause I was in TV production for many years. I learned to be an editor, to be a director, filmmaker, went to school for it, the whole deal later in my life. And so one of the pieces that we worked on was there's a thing called Candies, which is like a shoe line. It's been around since Candace Bergen was spokes. So when Candace Bergen retired, they had Jenny McCarthy come in, and she at that time was just hitting as in comedy and in movies and all of that. And so we did the video news release and the press kit for that. And I got to see her when in between in like B-roll when she wasn't answering. She was so funny and so fun in between and so
Yeah.
like, God, I want to hang out with her. Like I would love to
Right.
hang out with her in person. Who she is when the camera's off is like even
Mhm.
10 times cooler than knowing when it's on. So I always just had that in the back of my, that was like a dream actualized being on her show. And even at the beginning, she opened it by saying, Keith, I just want to let you know, like, I'm not here to mess with you. I believe. Like, so let's get to it. I was just like, so yeah, it was adorable.
That is really awesome. Well, before we wrap up, I do want to, we talked to, well, this is what happened in the beginning. I did an intro of the podcast and I forgot to say Keith's full name, which is Keith Leon S. So we had to redo it. So I'm just letting you know we had to do take 2 of the podcast. But Keith, tell us the meaning of the S on your name. So it's Keith Leon S. And tell us a little bit about, you told me some stuff about numerology. So tell us a little bit of that story.
Yeah, this is a wild story of complete trust. So I was born Keith Leon Smith. When I became a musician, started playing out in the world, I was like, I didn't like Smith, so I just got rid of it. So I was known as Keith Leon as a musician. Then when I started writing books, I was known as Keith Leon. I spoke all over the world on big stages, TV, radio, or Keith Leon. And then I did the Walking with My Angels book. And so I'm downloading, remembering everything while I'm writing the book. And then when it got to the question of, okay, so how do I get the word out about this book? One of the things that I was told to do was I clearly heard a voice say, hire the top numerologist in the world and pick the date for the launch. So I was like, I just do what I'm told. I'm like, okay. So I reached, who's the top numerologist in the world? I reached out to all the bigs. Who's the top dog? So I found that person, tracked them down, hired him. They decided that they wanted to do not only a reading for me about the business, but for me and Mara in relationship and for me personally. And so when they did the business one, he did that. And then when we got together, he said, okay, so so you were born Keith Leon Smith. I said, yes. And then you dropped it. You just Keith Leon. Yes. Ever since then, have you noticed that everybody loves you? They adore you. They'll hang on every word that you say. You're a great storyteller. But when it comes to the end of your talk and you go to get them to sign up with you, you have to work 10 times harder than everybody else to get people to actually hire you. And I was like, it don't seem like that. And he said, that's because you dropped Smith or the S. So I can't remember if it was 5 and 7. I don't know which is which because I'm not a numerologist, but he said, when you were Keith Leon Smith, it was like powerful, charismatic leader who I want to hire. But when you took off the S or the Smith, you still have the, oh, I just want to be around him. You still have that yummy energy, but the business energy, but I want to hire him, left the building. So I'm surprised you're doing well, but you could be doing so much better. You got to bring the S back in, or Smith. I don't care if it's Keith S. Leon, S. Keith Leon, or if it's Keith Leon Smith, or I don't care what. If you bring Smith or S back in, everything's going to shift. Everything's going to change. So I'm just like, okay. So I did that, and that's been branding ever since. And everything did shift in a big way. So I was like, numerology, huh? Okay. Good to know.
That's awesome. And I love that you're open to it, because not everyone is open to numerology or anything. So I love that you accepted and then took it. And now you are Keith Leon S., which you've been the same person this whole time, but the shift, I think, is what's really important.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. Well, I think we're about out of time, but if you want to say a couple of things for like 1 minute about your film, because you have an amazing film that people need to go and get, and then we'll wrap it up. So tell us about your film.
Well, last year my film launched called theinsideeffects.com. That's plural with an S. Theinsideeffects.com, and that's I interviewed scientists, researchers, doctors of all sorts, just everybody I could to kind of pick their brain about what they know about the body's ability to heal itself. And so I put that out. It's free for the world to see, never charged a penny. Created a book as I totally vibe with the film. Now, what am I supposed to do? I got some other experts to share their stories about specifically what they did. Because in the film, we have to speak generally about how to heal. So some very specific stories. And there's 2 volumes of that. And they're still 99 cents for the Kindle and $9.99 for the softcover. I'm just always going to keep it at what publishers would usually do for one day. I just keep it at that price because it's more important that the world has that information. That's my reason for making the film, the book. So theinsideeffects.com, put in your name and email address. You'll get a link to watch the book for free. Theinsideeffectsbook.com. You can hear about the book.
Awesome. We'll put those notes up in the show notes. Thanks so much for all your expertise and all the information you've given us. And if you want to know more, we actually interviewed him on our publishing podcast as well. So you can go listen to him there, and you can visit him on his website, leonsmithpublishing.com. Right? Is that right? Got it.
Yeah. leonsmithpublishing.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show. Please like and subscribe and share this podcast with anyone who you know would appreciate it and would like the information. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.
If you want to write a book and become a best-selling author, you're in the right place. At Elite Online Publishing, we can help you create, publish, and market your book so that it becomes a #1 bestseller. We work with a limited number of authors to ensure that they receive the best possible service. So if you want to learn how to write and publish a book that will empower you to smartly grow your brand, business, and credibility, apply today. We look forward to working with you.